Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 148 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate, and I am super excited if you are joining us here early this morning or whether you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we are talking about today could be useful for your network or your circle, please hit the share button and share the love with others. Well, as you guys know, we are in a focus week and we are focusing in on National Suicide Prevention Week. The other day we celebrated, and I guess we'd say honored, recognized, Suicide World Prevention Day as well. And so I am excited today to have Gena Orlando here with us. She is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Wisconsin Area Director. And she has lots of great content for us today. So good morning, Gena.
Good morning.
Oh, I love your shirt.
Yeah.
So before we get going this morning, I know we're going to be talking a lot of research, statistics, what's kind of going on in the world of suicide prevention. But before that, I'd like you to share with the audience a little bit about your own personal story.
Okay, so I struggle personally with mental health issues, have for most of my life, and mental health illnesses run in my family. My grandmother actually suffered from postpartum psychosis in the 50s and has had a lifelong battle with mental health issues as well. So I also attempted suicide when I was young, very young, 13. I'm thankful to be here today. And thankful that I do not really struggle with suicidal thoughts anymore and haven't for a very long time. I also lost two very close friends to suicide when I was young, 19 and 21 roughly. And those events significantly impacted my life. And I think suicide is complicated grief. So you look for ways to work your way through that and figure out how to live your life beyond that. And so I found out about AFSP, and I believe it was around 2002 when a friend of mine mentioned the Out of the Darkness overnight walk. That year, it was the first year that AFSP had hosted it, I believe. And I was like, oh my God, there's actually something in the world that really recognizes this. And so I started to follow AFSP loosely. I really just checked their website every now and then. I really always wanted to be armed with facts and things that I could share with people when they said really ignorant things about people who died by suicide or people who had mental illnesses. And so having followed them, finding out that there was an Out of the Darkness walk in my own community in 2010, or 11 is when I found out, and I was like, this is right here in my backyard, and I didn't know about it. Right. And I have to help change that. And so I got involved with the walk, eventually being co-chair and chair of the walk. I'm a founding member of the Wisconsin chapter. And funny enough, I don't have a mental health background. For the last 12 and a half years, I worked for a plumbing manufacturer in customer service, which I love. And then this job opportunity came. And so I said, even though this isn't my background professionally, I really feel like I need to go for this. And I got it somehow. So now I get to spend my days literally living my passion. So right. Here we are.
Yes, and so much of that time as we talk about that, our pain turns into our purpose, and there's nothing more powerful than that, than what you can speak to for your own life experiences, sharing those with others and embracing them also in their time of need and getting them in the right direction. And so I know with the organization, you guys obviously put on walks, you have some programs, but can we start out with some statistics and research? Where is any of that stuff at, just as a whole?
So really, research has only been being done on suicide for the last few decades. Um, what I can tell you specifically about Wisconsin is that suicide is the 9th leading cause of death in our state. We are above the national average. For the last year that we have statistics, the most recent year that we have statistics for is 2017. There's 926 deaths by suicide in our state. And I believe that works out to one person every 9 hours dying by suicide in Wisconsin.
That's chilling. And where do we go? So we're ninth. Is there somewhere that people can go to find out where their state sits?
Yes, most definitely. If you go to afsp.org and look for, I think it's under the facts and figures tab on the website. Our website is very easy to navigate. You can find your state. And you can also dig in. There's a lot of other statistics digging deeper into different demographics and things like that.
And, you know, does it play into part? I mean, how many different factors do they take? Or, you know, looking at whoever is like the number one person or the, you know, the second state with leading with death by suicide, do they take in, I mean, have there been any type of research done as to why that state might be higher than others? I know it was a confusing.
You know, I'm sure that there's individual studies done in each state, but I don't have any definite information behind that. I know that each state does research their own statistics.
Yeah, so like why they rank where they do.
Right, and it could be, I mean, like, so for instance, in Wisconsin, and this is just based on my knowledge, not any research, but so I know that, you know, we have a lot of rural counties in Wisconsin. We have a lot of dairy farms in Wisconsin. Those are demographics that are really being affected by suicide for lack of resources. A lot of times there's a lot of isolation in those areas. So I think each state does have its own, you know, variables as to why suicide rates are going up or down. And I think if you look into your own state's suicide plan, you might find what they're doing and things that have worked. But I'm not super knowledgeable about what is being done in each state or why our state might be higher than another state.
But it's interesting to look at those facts though. So
very much so.
To check that out on the website and see if it dives a little bit deeper into that. And so what is the hope when we talk about statistics and research in years to come? I know that Andy had mentioned part to that by like the year 2025, like lowering the rate. What is the hope with all of these awareness?
Oh, I lost you for a second. Sorry. So we have a bold goal to reduce the suicide rate 20% by the year 2025. So if you really want to find out more about that, you can go to our website and look up Project 2025. We feel that there's 4 areas that are critical that we can save the most amount of lives in the least amount of time. And that's working to reduce firearm suicide, working with emergency departments and primary care physicians, as well as correction systems. We feel like those are the areas that we know we can save the most amount of lives. And we're working with different partners in each of those areas. So we know that AFSP as an organization cannot do all of that by ourselves. So we are looking at partners to make sure that we have the right partners in place to be able to reach those communities.
Okay. And it will tell you how to actively get involved in that if you go to that project, if you want to.
Yes. So, and if you're looking to get directly involved, so one of the things that's important to know is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has chapters in every state, and every state has their own chapter website with an option to volunteer. And so that's another important thing to know. Our chapters are run by volunteers. We have so for instance, I'm the only staff person in the state of Wisconsin. Our chapter does all of the real work, the rolling up their sleeves and digging in and educating the community by bringing our programs to them and coordinating our Out of the Darkness walks. All that is done by volunteers. We are looking actually actively for people to join our Project 2025 committee here in Wisconsin. So again, you can do that by going to afsp.org/Wisconsin. Down at the bottom, there's a little button to volunteer with us. And it's broken, so you sign up, it's really easy. It's broken into the different areas that we need help, and really lets the person decide where does their passion lie, where do they really feel like they can impact their community. Do they want to, hang a flyer for a walk? Do they want to get involved with Project 2025? Maybe they want to help facilitate our programs in schools or businesses to help spread the education piece. So there's a lot of different ways that people can get involved with us.
That's awesome. And every state has that opportunity. It's
every single state.
Just the different projects that they're working at. Now, you guys have some different programs, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can
you AFSP has a pretty large portfolio of programs, and you can find those on our website under the various tabs. The education programs that we offer are vast, but the three that we focus on here in our chapter are, it's a program, our key program is called Talk Saves Lives. I will mention that these programs are offered through every chapter, but every chapter decides which programs they're really going to focus on for their community. Most, if not all of them, do have a feature for Talk Saves Lives, which is an introductory to suicide prevention. It's a very easy to deliver and easy to understand program where we have a slide stack that covers statistics, research that's being done, prevention, risk and protective factors, and then moves into prevention and how we can all play a role in that. And it's like I think I said, about 35 minutes, and we leave room for questions. And then that program also is offered in an LGBTQ module and a firearms module and a senior citizen module. It's offered in Spanish. So it's something to really just get the ball rolling. There's a lot of people who know kind of generally what to do if somebody is, if they're worried about somebody with a physical illness. And this gives them the general idea of what to do, what to look for in somebody who might be suffering from a mental health issue or a crisis and they don't know where to start. So that's our key program. We also have programs for schools like More Than Sad that teach teens how to recognize the signs and symptoms of depression in themselves and in others, and then how to seek help for that. That's also offered in a parent module and an educator module. We have trainers for mental health first aid, which is not an AFSP program that we've developed, but it's one of our partnership programs, so we do fund that. We have a program called, for survivors of suicide loss, called Healing Conversations, which is where somebody who has experienced a recent loss can be connected to one of our volunteers who has also had a loss. And it's just kind of like a peer-to-peer support where this person can get some guidance on the resources that AFSP has and the different resources in their community. And they're connected with somebody else in Wisconsin who hopefully is nearby. We are always looking for volunteers for that program as well. And the more volunteers we have for that program, the more closely we can connect the recent survivor with a volunteer who really can relate with them. Maybe a mother who's lost her child can be connected to another mother who's lost her child, or something like that. So again, all of these programs are delivered and coordinated by volunteers. And one of the other things that we have, it's big events that we have across the state are in November. It's the Saturday before Thanksgiving. It's called International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day, and AFSP coordinates events for this day. This day is recognized internationally, and there are events across the world. You can go on AFSP's website and find one near you. I think right now in Wisconsin, I could be wrong about this, but I think we have 5 that are currently set up and accepting registrations. So it's just a day where people come together and really comfort each other, and we do different activities. So every site plans their own activities, but there's usually, some kind of activity around. For instance, in Milwaukee, we've done guided painting sessions with all of our participants, and we have lunch, and then each year there's a new documentary that we all watch together. It's called the Journey series, and the videos are available on AFSP.org. And so we all watched this documentary together that always follows a different person or families in their journey, in their grief journey. And then afterwards, we talk about it. What sometimes, people talk about what resonated with them, or just some of the things that they went through immediately after and following the loss of their person. And so it's just a really powerful day of comfort. These programs that I've mentioned are all also offered at no cost, because we raise money at our Out of the Darkness walks to provide them to the community. So in Wisconsin, we have 5 Out of the Darkness walks. We kicked off our first walk last week it was actually in Altoona, but it's called the Eau Claire Chippewa Valley Walk. Our next walk is this Saturday in Wausau. And then October 12th, there's a walk in Ojibwa. That's the Northwoods Out of the Darkness walk. October 13th is the Milwaukee Out of the Darkness walk. And then October 26th is the Walworth County Out of the Darkness walk. So we have these walks all over the state. Again, you can go to afsp.org to find a walk in your community. These are held all over the country. They're not just in Wisconsin. There's, I think, over 450 walks nationwide. So you can definitely get involved. And again, all of these walks are looking for volunteers, people who want to get involved. So for instance, the Milwaukee walk, we're expecting there to be about 3,000 people. It's a really large and well put together event that is coordinated completely by volunteers who just want to make that difference in the community.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It sounds like there's so many amazing resources that are on that site for people to go to, and even educators, businesses, everything.
Yes, and I'm just getting the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. And that's, I think, one of the most important things to recognize is that you don't know these things are here until you know they're here. And unfortunately, many don't know they're here until they need them.
Mm-hmm.
What we want to do is let people know that these resources are there before they need them. And then hopefully that they don't need them, but they are there. So educating people how to reach out and talk, because that program Talk Saves Lives, and it's so simple, but it works. And really learning that it's okay to ask somebody if they're thinking about suicide. It's okay to let somebody know that you've recognized that they're hurting and that you're there for them. Just being there for them. Mm-hmm. Just saying that you've recognized it and they can talk to you. That can save somebody. And then also just helping to destigmatize mental illness so that people who are suffering really know that it's okay, right, that there's nothing wrong with them, that they have an illness in their brain, and that it's okay for them to reach out and get help for that, just like they would if they were suffering from, abdominal cramps for 3 weeks. Right. Because it's so important. And so the balance of those two things, and recognizing that, it's okay to reach out to someone, and also for the person who is in pain and suffering from that illness, to let them know that there's so many people out there who really are willing to listen, even if it seems like even if you don't see it, there is. And so being that person, and then also recognizing it and trying to learn how to, for me too, that's hard, because we want to fix it. We can't fix it. We can't fix somebody who has breast cancer by saying the right thing, right? We can't fix somebody who is suffering from a mental illness by saying the right thing. Sometimes we just need to shut up and listen to them and let them get it out. But always be mindful that just like you would want to help somebody find the correct medical intervention if they were suffering from abdominal cramps or symptoms of breast cancer, you do want to encourage the person to find those resources, or help them find those resources. So instead of saying, why don't you go get therapy? Let them know that if they could, because remember, this person may have trouble just getting into the shower because it takes so much energy. So saying, let me help you find a professional. You don't have insurance? Let me help you look on the internet for some free mental health care. Let me help you with those things, because it's one thing to let them know they're there, but and encourage them to do it. But letting them know that you're there to help them get there can also be a tremendous help, because they may want to do it, but just not have it in them to take those steps. So, depending on the person's level of distress, those are some things that you might want to think about doing.
And I think that what you said is just so important. And that was a question that I was actually going to ask you, because during this week, and as we have all this open conversation, I've had lots of people ask me, if I know somebody is really sad, or if they're talking about, possibly taking their life, or they're openly talking to you as a friend, but they're not willing to take the next steps, and they're an adult. They're an adult with a voice that says, I don't want help right now. I've had a lot of people ask me, so then what are those resources? Like what steps does that family member or that friend take if they know they're faced with someone who's already an adult? They can make their own decisions. They can say they don't want to go, but they are actively definitely crying out that, there is some things internally, that are going on, and that sadness is real, and those thoughts are real. The advice that you just gave, would that be that same advice for that? Because I know a lot of people feel stuck because they're like, well, they're an adult and they're going to go if they want to go, but I don't know how to make them go if they don't want to go.
Well, right. And I think you have to recognize that you can't force people to get help. You can't force people to go get mammograms. You can't force people to go get colonoscopies. They have to take those steps, even if they are at risk because of a family history or what have you. And so it is up to each individual to get the help, but continuing to be a source for them, to listen to them, to continue to encourage them. However, if you feel like there's truly an imminent risk that that person is going to take their life, then, making one thing, don't ever promise somebody that you're not going to tell what this person is telling you, because there may be a point where you have to intervene. You might have to call 911 or somebody in their family and let them know. But I think, it's hard. It's a really hard decision to make, but truly recognizing those symptoms and trying to determine whether or not, is this something that, I need to go and sit with this person and just to be by their side? Do I need to call their spouse, their mom, whoever, or, is this, I'm worried they're not answering the phone and I need to make sure that they're okay. So I need to call, the police or someone to go check on them. Those are things that, have to be decisions that have to be made individually, but you definitely can't force someone to get help.
Right. And is there any,
well, in extreme situations like involuntary commitment and things like that, but that's obviously going way out there.
Right. Is there a website, or on your website, do they have different resources that are in each state for counseling help, 1-800 numbers to call, all of that, because obviously in every different state, depending on funding and whatnot, there might be great programs for, going to free counseling if you don't have insurance, or going to some support groups, or possibly psychiatric evaluations at a lower rate. Is there anything on your website, or do you know of a website?
Oh, yes. So if you go to AFSP's website, there's resources so you will be connected to your local chapter, or you can, so by connecting to your local chapter, you can just go to afsp.org/whatever your state is. Otherwise, on afsp.org, you can put in your zip code to find the closest resources available to you.
Okay. And then by reaching out to those people, they know their direct resources, obviously, that are in your area.
Right.
Numbers. I've always found that if you call every number on there, you're going to get an answer somehow, because somebody at one of those organizations is going to know where to direct you.
Yeah. There's other really great sources of information as well, like NAMI and Mental Health America. Here in Wisconsin, we have Prevent Suicide Wisconsin. So all of their websites too would be, places where you can find information for different for different services and things like that.
Okay. Something I did want to touch on, just because me and Andy talked about it the other day, we didn't talk about it on our interview, but I think it's so relevant to just bring up, is that I've noticed over, last couple of years that the language that we use, the appropriate language, has been changing. And for me, I know, Gena, we're just kind of meeting each other, but my background is a lot in different abilities. And so different abilities used to be called all different things, or differently abled. And every single year, it seems like it evolves and it changes into different wording contexts. And I know that within our communities, we try to use as best as we can the appropriate language, but sometimes we don't even know what that appropriate language is because it's ever changing. So are you able to lend a little bit to that?
Sure. So, language is actually very important when talking about suicide. We often hear the term committed suicide. So I'll ask if you would ask if somebody committed brain cancer, or if somebody committed breast cancer, or if somebody committed diabetes. You would never, ever hear anybody say that.
Right.
So instead of saying committed suicide, we say died by suicide.
Okay.
Or simply killed themselves. But died by suicide is a preferred way of saying it. You'll also hear media reports of a failed suicide attempt or a successful suicide attempt. It's just a suicide attempt. There's not, using failed or successful. It's really, it's unneeded, it's unnecessary, and it's stigmatizing. People attempt suicide, but I think it's important to use appropriate language. Also, when reporting about suicide, it's so important not to use graphic headlines or details about the suicide. Those things can be very triggering for people who have both experienced suicide loss, but also people who are thinking about suicide. So how we talk about suicide matters, and you can find information on our website about sharing your story safely. And for media, we have a whole section for media people for reporting safely on suicide, and there's a lot of information out there. Again, these things are there. You don't know they're there if you don't know they're there, but what we want to do is spread the word that they are there. So you can learn, and a lot of it, not everybody is doing it I would say most people are not intentionally doing these things to perpetuate the stigma out there, but you can learn how to change your language to destigmatize it. And so I encourage you to find that information. Go to your local chapter, ask them for information, or go to AFSP.org and look up information on safe reporting or sharing your story, because we can help you do that.
Okay. And for those that are listening today in our audience, and maybe they've been impacted by this in their life, personally, by a family member, or they're just hearing this and they want to help build awareness and do that, what do you think are some of the best ways? Because as we chatted about beforehand, is that, not everyone sometimes has the funds to donate. And sometimes, depending on where you live and when you might not have the ability to walk in a walk. What are different ways that we can really help build awareness on, a daily, weekly, yearly basis, and kind of do our part and give back if we're listening, we want to do that?
Well, there's so many different ways that you can get involved. And like we talked about, getting involved with a local walk, sharing, following AFSP National or AFSP Wisconsin on social, and sharing our posts and liking our posts and reading stories. Sharing your own story. Sharing your own story can be so powerful and really help people who are struggling. So we have a way for people to do that. And we help them. So there's a template. I think it's on afsp.org, and there's I can't think right off the top of my head, I'm sorry, about where it is on our website, but you can share your story, and it's a very easy submittal process, and then our AFSP national team helps to tweak it to make sure that it's safe and things like that. And it could be highlighted on AFSP National's website, and social. You can volunteer. A lot of people don't know that you can actually sign up as a virtual walker for our walk. So if you can't be there to walk, you still want to support, maybe you even want to raise money, you can sign up as a virtual walker. A lot of people can't afford to donate or don't feel comfortable fundraising, but I want to make sure that people know that for our walks, those things are not required. So there's no registration fee. You don't have to fundraise. You can simply come and enjoy a day of hope and comfort and see the community that surrounds you and the community that cares about you. You can, volunteering to be a field advocate. I always say that this is the lowest amount of commitment with the biggest amount of impact. So you can go to afsp.org/advocacy and you sign up to be a field advocate. And what that means is you'll get notification from AFSP when there's something that they want you to take action on. And because you've already pre-filled out your name, address, and phone number and all of those things, they already know where to send your letter. So all you have to do is complete a short little form and click send, and it will go to all the correct representatives. And there's so many different ways. So again, like I said, going to one of those websites, and if you don't want to volunteer for AFSP, there's so many others out there that you can volunteer for. NAMI and Mental Health America, and there's a lot of great organizations out there that we partner with too to do different events. We partner actually with Mental Health America for our Survivor Day event here in Milwaukee. Okay. So I think, taking the first step by following us on social and sharing some of those posts can be really helpful to people, because getting the word out and spreading awareness and spreading messages of hope can really change the direction that this is going.
And one last thing before we kind of start to wrap this up is that, have you found that in our schools, at least in Wisconsin, or have you heard in other states, that anyone is making an active effort to bring mental
I'm really sorry, my dog is really naughty. I couldn't hear you.
Your new puppy, right? Is he a puppy?
She's a puppy. She's just about a year old, but she's really naughty when she thinks I'm not paying attention.
It's just like kids.
Yes.
Pets are just
so like, I'm sorry. What were you asking me?
Is that, have you found actively in Wisconsin at all, or maybe you've heard from other states, that there is an active movement in any way to really get mental health more into the classroom? What I can tell you is that, I feel like that's where it really needs to start, and that's where this stigma would start to end. I mean, it's real, and it's real for everyone. And I don't understand why, you know what I'm saying? There's all these barriers, and we can't talk about it because we all have stuff,
Oh yeah, and I will say, so there are a few schools that have actively done a few things, but not many. And I will tell you that I personally reach out to different schools, school districts offering programs, and the fact that our programs are free, I feel like that should be enticing.
Right.
But even with schools that have experienced the suicide, in my experience, are not reaching out. Some are. I would say there are some, and I do think that we're going to see. I personally think we will start seeing more. I think the people who are coming in and to our, coming to our tabling events. I'm really sorry. My dog is really being naughty. If you could see my living room, it's not good. And right now she's chewing on something plastic. So sorry, all you people on Facebook.
This show is real life.
Oh my God. Sorry. Anyway, I think we are attending different conferences and events that I've seen. I do see educators who really want to start getting education programs into their schools. I think that too has to come from the top down. We have to have smart mental health laws. We have to have requirements that suicide prevention is made a part of our education system. Right. Because I think, then we're going to see kind of like being voluntold. Sometimes that ends up being a good thing. But requiring schools to provide the suicide prevention training for educators is one good step. But bringing up education, mental health education and suicide prevention education to the students, it can be life-changing. And there are, like I said, there are some. Brookfield, for instance, they are the first school district to have a Hope Squad in Wisconsin. So Hope Squad is a group of students who are there and known to their peers as a place for them to go and talk to and reach out to. And the Hope Squad reaches out to students. And so there are some. I would just say that I would like to see more.
Right. It's just slow.
Yeah.
The process is slow, but steady in the sense that you guys continue to do your part in these other organizations to push forward. And so if we all can do our little part, whether that's sharing a post or putting something up or walking in a virtual walk or volunteering or any of those things, whether it's the 1 week of the year that you hear on this show that it's a National Awareness Week, or whether it's something that you do on a regular basis, I know that every little bit helps. With that, so in wrap up, if people want to find out more, if they have questions maybe that you didn't answer, maybe you don't have the answers to it, what is the best way to reach you, Gena?
So you can reach us, our local chapter, at Wisconsin, spelled all the way out, at AFSP.org. Okay. That is our email address. You can contact us or follow us, I should say, on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You can find us on our website too, our afsp.org/Wisconsin. That's where you'll find anything that we have going on. In addition to our walks and things like that, our Survivor Day events, we have an upcoming suicide support group facilitator training that's going to happen in Green Bay in November. So there's a lot of things going on. You follow us on those different areas. You can always reach out to us, and we typically, for any event, we'll have a contact listed that you can go to. But Wisconsin@afsp.org is our email.
Okay, wonderful. And we will drop that right in the heading of this interview, as well as, if you have any extra things or walks coming up that you would like to drop in the comments below, it'll be right there and easily accessible for anybody who jumps on and listens to this interview later today, or whether you're watching now. So with that, I just want to thank you so much, Gena, for taking out time out of your morning to share with us and give us this great information. I want to just, again, tell everyone to, please, for this week, this National Suicide Prevention Week, try to find a moment of your time to even if it's sharing this interview, because I'm sure that there is somebody out there that needs to hear it. So with that, if you want any more information about the On Air Advocate, you can go to onairadvocate.com, and all of our resources and services are right there. Or if you want to become part of our private community, head up to the top of this Facebook page, hit the blue button, and that will let you into our private Facebook group. So thank you again, Gena. Oh, do you have one more thing?
I just want to say one more thing, because I always like to mention, if there is anybody who is in crisis, you can always reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-TALK. The lifeline is always there. You can also text the word TALK to 741-741.
All right, and we will drop that below as well. Can we drop that below in the comments too?
Perfect.
For everyone. All right, wonderful. Thank you again, Gena.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching this morning, and we will see you guys tomorrow in the AM for another interview. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.